Hello and welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Devin DeCuna. On the show today is Randy Taryn, creator of Project Happiness. Project Happiness is a nonprofit project made to empower youth to create greater happiness in their lives and in the world. She is also co-author of the Project Happiness Handbook, which makes the best of positive psychology, emotional intelligence, and global literacy accessible to students in 6 countries. Randy, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Devin. It's great to be here.
You know, Randy, what inspired you to come up with Project Happiness?
Well, Project Happiness started for me in a very personal way. I had always been interested in the subject of happiness, but when my own daughter, who was a teenager, was sitting across the kitchen table from me and said to me, "Mom, I am so stressed out. I want to be happy, but I don't know how." That really shocked me and got me into action. And I started looking into it, Devin, and started asking the experts about this whole stress phenomenon and how pervasive it is. And I was just amazed at what I found out. Apparently there are over 3 million kids aged 7 to 17 that were treated for depression just in the last 5 years, and that is more than double the number from the previous 5 years. This whole bullying phenomenon that is in the news, and 77% of students, 77% have been bullied mentally, verbally, or physically in school. And even depression, the World Health Organization predicts that by the year 2020, depression is going to reach second place in the global burden of disease. And that's no matter, what your age is, what your gender is, or what your background, socioeconomic background is. So this is something that we really need to pay attention to, and I really felt like I had to do something.
Let's say you're dealing with a teenager whose emotions is always spiraling. And as a teenager, that's when you do a lot of self-identifying. And I heard some kids say being a teenager is very hard. What's one way to avoid the stresses each teenager faces and to get them to lead a more positive life?
Well, first of all, instead of focusing on what everyone else, how everyone else defines you, it's really important to know your own strengths, and that's for teenagers, and that's for all of us, just to know who we are. And if you don't know, what your strengths are, ask someone who's close to you, what they see as your strong points. Those are the things that come naturally, like not piano lessons where you have to learn a skill, but more like a sense of humor or caring or whatever. So teenagers, if they know their strength, that's big advantage. And the second one is to choose your mindset. So if something, if you do a presentation in school and it goes badly, it's not that you don't say, "I'm a failure." You would rather say something like, "Well, that didn't work out quite the way I wanted. I guess I can put more, effort and time, and I will improve next time." So that's another thing that people don't realize. We have more power than we think in terms of how we frame certain things.
And just to go along with that question, another huge problem amongst teenagers is the suicide rate. It seems the suicide rate increases each year, and the ages get younger and younger. And it's so sad that these kids cut their life short, capable of achieving so much in the world. Can you give your take as to why teens take this route?
I think it has to do with hopelessness and a feeling of isolation. So more and more with the technology and all that, it's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing and it kind of gives us access to a lot more people. But on the other hand, what is the quality of that connection that we're actually having with one another? So many teenagers are feeling more isolated than ever. And then the whole question of, what is the meaning to my life? Does it even matter? And there are all sorts of antidotes to that. But those are some of the most pervasive questions that are happening. Plus all this stress. I don't know, Devin, if you've experienced, the stress of getting into certain schools, but it is harsh, and a lot of kids feel really burdened by it.
Oh, yeah.
Your experience?
My parents really didn't put a burden on me. They just said, whatever school fits your needs, we'll go ahead and support you right away. So that was good. They didn't put any pressure on me like, oh, we want you to go to Illinois or Northwestern, and we really want you to study hard. Not that they expected me to. I mean, if I wanted to, they certainly said go ahead. But like I said, they just encouraged me to, go whatever route you wanted to. So there was no pressure. So I'm so thankful that I never had to deal with that.
I'm glad for you too. You're one of the lucky ones, really.
Right. Yeah, and one of the scenes that stood out to me was the one when the kids were talking to George Lucas, and one of the kids asked him, "What's your definition of long-term happiness, or what contributes to long-term happiness?" So again, I just like to ask you the same thing, Randy. What do you think contributes to long-term happiness?
Well, I think gratitude is one of the pillars of happiness. Really important to appreciate and focus on all the great things that we have already in our lives, rather than look at all the things that are missing. And science has actually proven that if we do that on a regular basis, if for even as little as 21 days in a row, that can actually change the way our neural pathways function, and we will, as a result, end up being happier. So that is huge. Gratitude is huge. Another thing is finding, we are social beings, so finding a way to connect with others in a way. And I look at connection on 3 levels. So one is connecting with who we are on the inside, with the joy that we were born with, because everybody's born with that capacity. Another thing is connecting with people, with friends, with colleagues, with family. And the third level of connection for me is connecting with something greater, something that I'm passionate about, something where I feel that I can make a difference. Whatever that, whatever a person's passion is, whether it's nature or animals or sports or whatever, it's very fulfilling to be involved with a group of people, like-minded people that all feel the same way and that are all making a difference in some way. Those are a couple of things anyways.
While watching the movie, one of the characters that stood out to me was, she was the daughter of Baba G. I don't know if you recall her name.
Yes, yeah. Bob. Mm-hmm.
She had an amazing story. When she was up there doing her graduation speech, and she talked about how she started out an orphan, but with the way she was raised and just her story was, to me, she really stood out to me. All of them had great stories, but hers in particular really stood out to me.
Yeah, she is an amazing human being. So a little background for the listeners that she came from India as a young teen from a very different world and had to acclimate to North America. So that's one factor. The other one was that she's an orphan, and she had been beaten and abused as a very young child, and then luckily enough was able to join this orphanage at the age of 4. But of course that there were issues, long-standing issues that had not been resolved. So when she came here and as a teenager was trying to fit in, all the old issues of her childhood came to light, and it became overwhelming. Over the next couple of years, she worked really hard, overcoming some huge, huge battles. I am so proud of Prabha. Today she is actually studying nursing at the University of San Francisco. And
Wow.
she has devoted her life to helping others, even after such a terrific background. So she's truly inspirational.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just to see what she came from to see where she is now. That is really a great story. So that's good for her. That's really good for her. And Randy, let's say someone was unhappy and they wanted to escape the suffering they've been put through. What can they do to become a more peaceful person?
Well, there are so many things to do. Happiness is a personal journey, and you can't say that there's just this one path to happiness. But there are a couple of things that are very, very effective. One of them is breathing. So that's something that we can all do, quiet moments or even in traffic. So I'll give an example of one breathing technique. It's called color breathing. So what you do is you imagine two colors. One represents happiness, peace, serenity, calmness, joy. The other one represents the opposite. So that's representing stress, toxicity, all the challenges. So you want to breathe in the color of happiness and joy and feel that permeating all of your cells. That breath for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Breathe out all the color of stress, all the problems that you have. Just breathe that out. Breathe it out through the soles of your feet, and you repeat that a couple of times, and that really does make a difference. That's just one example. And then really, if you can do something that helps another person, it could be the smallest thing, like helping somebody, it could be whatever is meaningful to you. Being a mentor or just even the littlest thing like smiling at somebody. You never know how you are going to make their day. And the curious thing about that is that it ends up making you feel happier. That happiness is a lasting happiness. It's not the kind that is fleeting, like if you buy an electronic gadget like an iPad. Yeah, you're going to be thrilled and excited for a little while, but then that goes away. Help others, that stays with you. And affection is really important. Hug someone or be hugged. Pet your pet. Hold hands. These types of things really add up to our happiness as well. And finally, find your passion. Find something that lights you up, and try and fit more of that into your life. It really will make a difference.
Mm. We touched on that a little bit on the beginning, and that's the subject of bullying. Bullying happens a lot, especially in high school. You can be bullied face to face, and even now with social media, you can pretty much embarrass someone online, and it can spread, and everyone hears about it. So it's such a bad thing that happens. In what ways can someone cope with bullying, or just ways to just deal with it?
Bullying is a huge problem in our society, and it takes all of us to actually fix it. So it's not something that ideally that a student can do alone. We need parents involved. We need the administration involved. One level, parents can teach their kids different ways to deal with the bullies. So, for example, if you are watching somebody bullying somebody else, don't just stand on the sidelines. You have more power than you think. Act on it and say something about it. And for kids that are, it's very empowering just to realize that the bullies are normally people that really rather insecure by themselves. So they have been bullied, maybe not in school, but maybe in their other circumstances, and they're just taking it out on others. Really, I believe there should be a zero tolerance for bullying. And actually, my own daughter was bullied, one of my daughters, and I almost took her out of that particular school. Actually quite disappointed with how the school handled it. And we all have to pull together as a society and just say enough is enough. Not allow for that. But part of that is monitoring our own messages that we give, both to ourselves and to other people, because kids pick up on what their parents consciously or unconsciously say or do. So I think it's not just a problem with kids in school. It's something that we all have to more aware and mindful of our own.
Well, one of the latter parts of the movie was when the kids went to go visit the Dalai Lama. Can you explain what that was like, and what did the kids learn from him?
Well, first of all, anytime you meet the Dalai Lama, it is a mind-blowing experience. What people say is true, because let me give you the example of Luke, one of the characters. Film. He was all upset and all angry before he saw the Dalai Lama, and he couldn't really put his finger on it, but he said that when he went into the interview, it all dropped away.
Right, I remember that scene.
Yeah. And everybody, well, first of all, they are all taken by his laugh. The Dalai Lama has a laugh that is contagious. And once he starts, you just can't help yourself from laughing. And mixed with that is such an enormous compassion that everybody feels it. So, the kids were asking the Dalai Lama, what is lasting happiness? Path to lasting happiness. So he talked about trust and harmony, and that we are together, warm-heartedness, and all ingredients. And at the end, he said something that shocked all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what that was?
Yes, he said, I don't know.
Right. He said, I don't know. And then everyone was going, I don't know. How could he not know? But the truth was, he wanted everyone to realize that we all have the answers. We all have to find our own answers.
Right.
It's really lasting and meaningful.
Right. So happiness has a lot of different meanings. It's just depending on who you ask. Your definition could be different from my definition, and whoever. So it's really depending upon who you ask, really.
Yeah, it's very funny. When we do workshops at Project Happiness, we often have people write down, what is happiness to them on this paper with markers and all that. And you would be amazed that each person has a very, very different answer to it. So, it's something that is so worth the effort of looking into, what does make me happy, what makes me happy short term, what makes me happy long term, how can I create a happier life? And The thing is, there are skills that people can develop, and that's what's so exciting is that the science now, science of happiness, neuroscience, and all backing up that we can actually change our brain. How, you were born, you can actually, with certain practices, get yourself happier. This is really very encouraging, and it's something that we believe is so important that we're teaching it in school.
Right, and I just want to just add, it just seems so simple, like when you say define happiness, it seems so simple, like okay, but when you really think about it, it's so complex, and you really do have to think about it because there could be a variety of definitions for happiness.
Okay, well let me ask you what's yours.
Just whatever you feel happy doing, just whether if it's your career or spending time with your family or friends, whatever makes you happy. That's my definition of being happy, and also being successful.
That's good. That's
good. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
And also, Randy, if you could just maybe give some simple steps for someone to find the courage to be yourself, what would they be?
Okay, well, first of all is know yourself. Know who you are, know your strengths. Knowledge is power. So that's number one. Find the things, number two, find the things that you are passionate about. So, whatever really grabs you at a very deep level. One clue is that, a couple of hours can feel like a couple of minutes when you're doing it. That's something that you should really pay attention to. The other part is just embody that, do more of that in your life, and trust that the messages that you're getting from your own intuition are valid and valuable, and inner messages, your inner wisdom, and that will really help you authentically live a happier life.
And also, I was just curious to know, what's next for you, Randy? Are you going to try and do this project again with a different set of kids, or are you going to try something else new with Project Happiness? So what's going on?
Well, right now we're launching the film worldwide, and we're in many, many film festivals, and we're winning awards, and it's very, very exciting to spread the message of hope through the film. So that's one thing. The other thing is that a book called the Project Happiness Handbook. That is many people, regular people, people in schools, whatever, just because it gives them kind of a pathway to discover their own happiness. And from that came curriculum. That curriculum is being here and in other countries. We have over 1,000 kids in Nigeria, as an example, that are doing Project Happiness after school. So one of the goals is world happiness domination. Woohoo! Everybody should know these skills. Everybody should know how to generate their own happiness regardless of what's going on in their external circumstances. So that's really the whole mission, and we will be doing more films, more multimedia projects, television, radio. I write for the Huffington Post to get the message out as well, and we have tremendous resources on our website at www.projecthappiness.com that can be downloaded by anyone or people in education. So, the next step is to just really get the message out that everybody has that capacity of being happier.
Well, that's great news. That's awesome that you guys are going to continue this. Can you give out a website where listeners can get more information about Project Happiness?
Oh, absolutely. It is all at www.projecthappiness.com. There are many, many ways to get involved. You know, read the book. You can join a happiness circle where you get together with friends and just go through your own happiness journey. You can see the movie. You can set up a screening in your own town, schools or community centers. Then we have an online course that's starting. So no matter where you live, you can actually, jump into your own happiness. Really learn these skills and bring more happiness into your life. Those are a few of the things that are available now.
Well, again, Randy, I'd like to thank you for being on the show today. This project is really amazing, and I really hope our listeners really check this out, because this is something that is very touching, something that it can be very useful, especially for a teenager who's going into adulthood. If any challenges they're facing, if they think life is so hard right now, they can watch this and see that there is a brighter side at the end of the tunnel. So this is a really great thing you guys did, Randy, and it was really great to watch.
Thank you so very much. I mean, it's important for anybody who's going through transitions, and even in this economy that's creating all sorts of challenges for people. I really just want people to know that there is hope, and there is, an abundance of happiness that we can tap into from the inside. So, it's a challenging time, but it's also an exciting time because we have all this available. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I so appreciate the opportunity to share this with others.
Well, we do too, Randy. Randy, thank you so much for being on the show today. Again, it's Project Happiness by Randy Tarian. Listeners, be sure to visit our website at www.beyond50radio.com to sign up for a free weekly newsletter. And always remember, listeners, to live your day past halfway.